right, it's 6:30. Oh boy. So we've got Daniel, who's one candidate, and the other that we're looking for. I know George did nominate, was looking to be a candidate, but he just expressed that he'd be willing to cede the responsibility to the other applicant in his ward, just to make it no contest. I told him he could be an alternate in case they drop out, but that's the latest on that. Just reply to his email. The other one, what's their name?
Who's Gordon? And Barrett.
Hasley was one of them.
Yeah.
I don't know how to pronounce the name, but.
And me as well for Ward 3. I just got the email from Chris like an hour ago to discuss beforehand, but I've been working until like 5 minutes ago. So I did not have that opportunity.
Totally. Yep, Dan, I know you're in it for sure. But yeah, I don't know who Hasley is. I'll open up that spreadsheet.
Yeah, he mentioned he would be at City Hall right now.
Oh, he's doing it in person. Okay.
Can you hear us over here at City Hall?
Yep,
great.
I can. Yeah.
So what's happening?
And good question.
Will the candidates for Ward 2 declare themselves and the candidates for Ward 3 declare themselves? They can make little speeches and we can vote.
But who's going to vote?
Good question.
Like that's why I say I don't know what the next step is. And plus we have, announcements and public forum to do before we get to the vote anyway on the agenda.
Ooh, I thought this was just a redistricting meeting, not a regular Ward 2-3 meeting.
I thought so too, but it's on the agenda that it was posted.
Okay. How many people are in the City Hall room? It's very tiny on my screen. I can't see.
There are 3 members of the NPA and then Kirsten is here with CEDO.
Okay. So we have 5 or 6 members of the NPA.
Oh man. So before we move forward, I'm going to look up who that other applicant is, the one that who's going to show up in person. Just so I have the name here.
So is Daniel from, which ward is Daniel from? I think you're from 3?
Yeah, I'm from Ward 3. It seems like someone already edited my name to include that.
Oh yeah, Molly's on it.
Daniel, where do you live?
I live on Cedar Street, number 56.
Where's Cedar Street?
It runs between La Fontaine and Rose Street, in that area. I live on that block.
Okay, it's in the Old North End.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Huh. So George had reached out to me and said, are they still here? No. So the one I talked to on email said that he was going to cede the give up his spot and possibly be an alternate. But he, at least according to the spreadsheet that we've got, was for Ward 2, and I don't see any other applicants for Ward 2. Because Chris Hassley, which is the one that is going to be showing up in person, and Daniel Montanu. Is that how you say that, by the way?
Montanu, but any pronunciation's okay by me.
I'm sure you've heard a lot. So you're Ward 3 as well? So yeah, there's no other Ward 2s. So George must have been mistaken. I'll have to let him know. Yeah, that would be a bummer. I'll do that right now, and then yeah, I think that's enough delay. I'll at least open it up for announcements and public forum, and we'll go from there, I guess.
I'd speak at public forum, but I think announcements, we should make sure we get announcements done first, if there are any.
Yep, definitely. Yeah, I'll start that in a sec. I'm just going to shoot this email to George. Cool. All right. Let me open up the agenda, and we'll get that going. Unless I hear any objection. All right. So welcome everybody to the special meeting of the Wards 2 and 3 Neighborhood Planning Assembly. I'm Kevin, one of the steering committee members, and Tony, we'll start with you. We'll pass around the mic.
We're introducing ourselves as members of the.
Just a hello. Yeah.
Hello, Tony Reddington, Ward 3, Steering Committee.
And Barbara.
I also from be on the steering committee, although I've just had a big loss in my family. I'm kind of taking a little sabbatical, but I thought this meeting was really important, so I thought I would come.
Cool. Thanks for being here, Barbara. And we got Charlie G. And Molly is at the Queen City Conference Room.
Yeah, hi everybody, I'm Ward 3.
And I think that's.
I'm Kirsten Cito. Michelle, Ward 3. Chris, Ward 3.
Awesome.
There's Charlie.
Yep.
I think we should mention just briefly that Patrick Johnson would normally be with us tonight, but some of you may not even know yet that there's some serious illness in that household, and he's going to be preoccupied for at least for the immediate future. So I think it should be mentioned. We should, and actually, I guess we should say that it's fair to say, I want to say who it is, but because that may be not the right thing to say at this point, but it is in the household, and it's very sad development at this point.
Agreed.
My.
Yeah, so the next meeting, the real full NPA meeting, will be next October 14th, next month. That's what I meant to say. We meet every second Thursday of the month at 6:30. Usually runs to like about 8 or 8:30. And yeah, it's a great time. Local politicians come and give updates, and people looking to make stuff happen in the neighborhood come and talk about it. And the public will also be able to forum, just like tonight. So if there's any public looking to forum, raise your hand, either with the app or on video. All right. So we've got no one in the audience except for Tony. Tony, you want to forum? You got 2 minutes.
All right. Listen, thank you very much, Kevin, and I'm glad that we've got some people who are willing to serve as and to compete for positions on the Redistricting Advisory Committee. I didn't speak at our regular meeting because the beginning of the meeting was very, very difficult with audiovisual issues. But I was going to speak, and that's why I asked to speak tonight about housing. This is a constant problem, and it's far more serious in my own experience recently, finding a very well-known a person I've known for some time, who's a senior who literally is on the street and homeless. At one time did have help, but is not getting it right now. I believe that the inequality in our city is perhaps one of the major issues. And right now we have still 1,000 people on the wait list at the Housing Authority. And you parse that out and it comes out to basically 1 out of 10 Burlington residents who are non-college students. 1 out of 10 people have applied and are seeking affordable housing help in the form of 30% income max rent. And the state of Vermont itself does not provide 1 unit of such help. I'm on the Community of Vermont Elders Policy Committee, and it's an issue there. I think that we're finally getting to the point where the city itself should be funding. If we had a penny for housing, housing assistance, basically like the Section 8, we could fund 120 units. The state could obviously do hundreds. And this is really critical, particularly in our 2 wards, which are probably 75% renters, and where a lot of the 1,000 households seeking housing assistance in the city are located. So I put a challenge out to each of our city councilors and to our state representatives and senators to sponsor and push for at least a demonstration program of 10 to 15 units of truly affordable housing assistance, like the Fed's Section 8 and vouchers. And I think the time is now. We should not be waiting. And I just think that this is the critical issue in addition to pedestrian safety in the city. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Tony. All right, so that brings us to our next item. If there's no other takers for public forum, doesn't look like it. So, CETO folks, I could use some guidance here. And Molly, really, it's all steering committee. What do you think we should do? I mean, we've got 2 attendees in the audience. We have 2 of the 3 candidates, and only and they're both from Ward 3. The other is Ward 2, and he's not present.
So if there's only 1 known candidate for Ward 2, there doesn't need to be an election. I think that's how the city council resolution was written, that there would only be an election if there was more than 1 person interested. So that might be of help right now, if that is the case.
It is a big help. That at least takes care of half the equation.
And Kevin, you're the only person from Ward 2, so it looks like you are alone, can cast the 1 vote or do whatever is necessary to inform the winner.
Right. It's less of a vote and more just like
I wanted to resign before he was elected.
So for the record,
Okay, so as for the Ward 3 folks,
Yeah, why don't we deal with what we have and have the people who want to be the representative for Ward 3 say a few words of introduction and maybe stand for questions.
okay. Does that sound to both of you, Chris and Daniel?
So we were hoping to maybe talk beforehand if I wasn't, at work then. So sort of one of us could decide to take on the role. So I'd be willing to drop out. I mean, I do feel strongly that, it's an important process, but I feel like the timeline is very short. And although it'd be nice to kind of be part of these like first steps in this redistricting process, I think it's important that we fight for more community feedback, more citizen education over a longer time period, and that the NPAs do their part to kind of make sure the city is making the right decision and really investigating all of the alternatives to the current council sort of configuration. So even if am not part of the process in this role, I look forward to continuing on in whatever steps may follow and give feedback.
Right on. So Chris, what do you think? How do you want to proceed?
If Daniel's no longer interested, I'm happy to serve. This has been a longstanding interest of mine since the last process. For me, it's really with the development going on in the city, the new Cameron Rise over in Ward 7, and I think Bayberry Corners, the former quarry over Ward 1. I think the population is shifted such that there probably is going to need to be some re-examination of how the ward boundaries are drawn. I know that the statute requires that there to be within, I think, a 10% deviation. And I think that that's good, but I think we can and probably ought to do better. For me, it's really about ensuring an open and transparent process that is, free of partisan influence. I think we really need to try to do the best we can and make sure we have as close as possible an equal number of people represented in each ward. We try to keep, neighborhoods together, not draw a line through the middle, or down the middle of the street if we can help it, and just try to make sure it's open. And if given this opportunity, I would work here with the folks at the NPA and just set up some additional meetings for the people of Ward 3 to weigh in, and also would like to see about having some type of mailing sent out to just educate people and alert them. We do share the sentiment that many folks have said regarding the compressed timeline. And I think that, in my view, is all the more reason why we need to do everything we can to educate and get people involved in the process and hold the hearings and get them out. But at the end of the day, my big priorities are just making sure that we have contiguous wards or districts, and that they are as close in population as possible.
Right on. Cool. So
At some point, I'm willing to make a motion if the two gentlemen apparently are in agreement that as a resident of Ward 3, Kevin, I hereby nominate Chris Hasley to be our representative to the redistricting committee. And I think that we could have a second motion, a second action to regarding, depending on the outcome of this vote, we could have a second motion that would deal with Daniel being the alternate that we would select from Ward 3.
Tony, maybe before that motion, I see someone has their hand raised, so maybe we can hear from them first. Is that okay?
Oh, sure.
And I want to say,
The motion has been made, so if we want to second it, it would be open for discussion anyway, and comments would be appropriate at that time.
I second it, and then I would like to talk at some point.
all right. So are we okay to move on to Christopher Aaron? Is that,
Okay.
Is that my understanding? Okay, yeah. Christopher Aaron, go ahead.
Good evening, everybody. So my question is regarding the 8 ward and 4 district breakdown of city council. I understand that this was a recent change. I believe in the last census, I hear from some city councilors that they don't like the way that it's made up currently. And some people are interested in returning to a, 8 wards with 2 councilors each body.
Right.
I'm curious to hear what this NPA what the opinions are of the residents of this NPA. So that's kind of a question I have for the group. It's maybe not 100% on subject, but it's relevant. And so I'm kind of curious about, especially how long-term residents have felt about this. So that's my question for this evening. Thank you.
Huh. Well, thank you for asking that, because that's a good question. The moderator in me is saying that that's just, it's too far off, like the impetus of what we're here to do right now. So I'm wondering if it would be better to
Well,
if you're hold on one sec, just 1 second, please. So would you be willing to instead just come to our next regular meeting, and we can put you on the agenda, we can have a Q&A, like, or we can work out some
sure, I
other
mean,
way.
sure, I'd love to talk about it with a larger group, but there are some people here present this evening whose opinions I really value on the subject. Plus, we're talking about sending a representative in to talk about redistricting. Apparently, from the city's slides, it looks like the greatest variation in population came about in wards like 1 and 7. Ward 3 seemed almost parallel to where it was 10 years ago, probably because of the lack of housing here. There was no place else to put them. But that being, like, I don't think that our ward really has a much of a risk. I think that Ward 2 might have some modifications coming up, but I think that Ward 3 is really safe. But that breakdown and redistricting really creates this 4-district council district. So I'm just kind of curious. So wherever you want to talk about it, I'm very curious to hear what some people in the group have to say about it.
Gotcha.
And thank you again.
Absolutely. Thank you for being involved, and thank you for being here.
Kevin, I feel like that's a legitimate question to ask somebody we're about to, what they think. They might not have an opinion, or they might have one, but I have some questions as well.
But I would agree if he was only asking the candidate, but it sounds like he's asking just like various people in the call right now.
Oh, okay.
Otherwise, I would 100% agree that would be appropriate in this, like, for this item. I just think that, like, it's too big of a question. We could talk about this for another hour or two. Like.
Maybe I could direct my question directly at the candidates, and then if that inspires other attendees to ask a question of the candidates on the same subject, maybe we can have a fuller view of other people's opinions. Do you follow my workaround on that? It sounds like there might be 1 or 2 other people interested in the subject also. So maybe an answer is given by candidates will prompt another attendee to ask a follow-up question, and we can all try and have a little bit larger of an understanding.
The thing is, the whole point of appointing a candidate tonight is so they go out and, like, engage with people in their ward and, like, get their feedback and, like, to gather that information.
Okay.
Right now, this is just to, like, move forward with the process.
That's fine. Maybe I could just be a simple question to the 2 candidates. Like, do you support modifying the redistricting to include districts like we have currently, or a remodification or a redistricting to allow for just something that accommodates 2 counselors per board? And then I can hold off, and I can maybe reach out to Tony and other people privately. Sorry, Brenda. Barbara, sorry.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, I'm out of here.
So, big point, with reinforcement, one person will vote, that's kind of core bedrock principle of our democracy. And I kind of wonder, when you have a district model, with like a district overlaid over 2 wards, how that really plays out. I'm still kind of grappling with that, but as Kevin has noted, this is an advisory committee. Our role here is not to come into it with our own personal opinions and advocate for what we believe personally. Say that, this is what I'd like to see. Our job is to go out and solicit the input of the community, particularly Ward 3, and get their input. I certainly have my own personal opinions and feelings on the matter and how I'd like to see it, but it's not up to me to decide. It's up to us to go out and get the opinions, and based on that solicitation, say, hey, I've talked to people in my ward, and this is the vibe I'm getting, this is the sense I'm getting based on those conversations. The people in our ward really are concerned about this, or the people in the ward really want to see these types of changes. And that's how I view the role, is to really go out and be more of a facilitator and get the input, and really try to get as many people involved in the process so that we can come up with a position or, come back to the larger committee as a position and say Ward 3 feels X, Y, and Z on. But I do have some concerns about the current model, and I thought that, a ward model previously, which was 7 or 8 or whatever the magic number needs to be, with 2 people from each ward, it just seems a little simpler. And as Wendy Coe, the ward clerk of Ward 3 or Ward 2 had pointed out at last week's meeting, from a candidate's perspective, I think it makes it a little more challenging to campaign when you have a larger geographic district. So it's kind of, what I think, but at the end of the day, it's really about getting the input of the larger community here, Ward 3, taking that feedback to the larger community.
Yeah, well put.
Thank you. That was great. Thank you.
Daniel, you had raised your hand.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree, but I'm still like going back to that like 5-week time frame. I feel like that's too little time to consider the alternatives. Like we don't know really what they are. I know in the case of the previous reapportionment, like there was several alternatives already laid out. Would it be 7 districts with 2 apiece, 8 with 2 apiece, or also this kind of like hybrid where the districts are overlaid? So I'm not really sure if the ad hoc committee.
Touch my fucking testicle, nigga.
Wow.
Oh my.
I changed them to an attendee. Somehow they popped back over to panelist. Weird. Anyway.
Sorry about that, everyone.
Yeah, I think it's a good point about the time frame, and based on just the discussion at last week's meeting at the school about Allen Street, and then the feedback we heard from some of the folks that had participated in the process earlier this summer from the other wards, there definitely seems to be a lot of concern about the timeline, and that may be one of the things that the larger community comes back and recommends and say, look, this is an important thing, but our recommendation is at this point is to take a longer time here so that we can really have a thoughtful deliberation about it. I'm certainly willing to advocate for that. 5 weeks is a very short time frame. I think we want to maybe look at that.
All right. So with that, do we have to do anything more on the motion that was seconded by Barbara to like fully confirm, or CEDO folks, I could use some advisement.
So the motion was for Chris to take the role and for Daniel to be the alternate?
Yes. And Barbara seconded it.
Okay, so if you want to vote on that now as a full committee, that would make sense.
Okay, so everyone from Ward 3 would vote, correct?
Correct.
Cool. All right. So yeah, everyone from Ward 3, raise your hand to confirm Chris as their candidate. All right. I think any nays?
Charlie says yes.
All right. Attendees, your hands are still up. I'm guessing that those are for yays. There's no way for them to respond. That's right. Yeah. So I mean, can we have them unmuted or anything?
Yeah, they can speak if they'd like to.
Yes.
There's an answer in the Q&A.
Yeah.
Ah.
Gordon says yes as well. So yes is
Beautiful.
from Gordon.
Awesome. I didn't want to assume, just for the record. Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chris, for bearing with us through all this, and Daniel, thank you for also bearing with us on this. I admire both of your civic spirits, and I look forward to engaging more with you about this.
We've got each other's emails, so maybe you and I can get together and talk, because I'd like to keep you involved too, since you clearly have an interest. And same with you, Christopher. It sounds like you've got a strong interest as well. So.
Amazing, thank you.
Right on. Thank you, both of you, and thank you everybody for being here. I think with that we can adjourn. I adjourn this special meeting of the NPA. Have a good night, y'all.